This is Jeb Blunt, and it's Money Monday on the Sales Gravy Podcast.
Say make money, money, make money, money, money. Make money, money, make money, money, money. Money makes the world go round. I'm the talk around town. Remy gave me the sound. I need that Skrilla on the Rilla.
All right, it is Money Monday. It's time to get focused, energized, and motivated and start your week strong, because how you start your week is going to determine how you end your week. Now, before we get started, I'm excited to announce that the AI Edge, my brand new book that I wrote with Anthony Anarino, is finally out on audio and ready to download and listen to. You can grab it on Audible and Spotify. This book is going to teach you how to start using AI at every stage of the sales process to get more time to sell more. Go get the AI Edge right now on Audible or Spotify. If you love the podcast, you'll love my audiobooks. 3 weeks ago, it warmed up here in Augusta, Georgia. It was getting into the upper 70s and 80s, so I played hooky from work to take advantage of the weather and play a round of golf. And while I was waiting for the group in front of me to clear the green, my phone rang. I answered, but I couldn't hear anything on the other end, so I hung up. Now, 10 minutes later, it rang again with a call from the exact same number. But this time, I was walking up to a birdie putt, so I sent the call to voicemail. After I finished my round, I looked at my voicemail messages to see who had called, but there was no message, so I didn't give it another thought. Later that evening, while I was getting ready for dinner, I found an email from the same rep saying he'd tried to call earlier, but he had got disconnected from me. And it was in that moment that I realized that I had my earbuds in when I answered the phone the first time. And sometimes when calls come in, they don't automatically transfer over to my earbuds, and that's why I couldn't hear him when I picked the phone up. I considered responding to his email in that moment, but it was dinner time and I was getting ready to grill some steaks. So I thought, well, I'll just get to it the next morning. But the next day, life happened, parties got in the way, and I completely forgot about it. I haven't heard from the rep since. After 3 attempts and no voice message, he gave up. And the sad thing is, because of my guilt about hanging up on him, had he made one more call or email, I would have responded. Other than not prospecting altogether, giving up too soon is the primary reason salespeople are failing at prospecting on an epic scale. Once after another attempt at creating a viable light bulb went down in flames, the inventor, Thomas Edison, famously said that he hadn't failed. He just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. Because of Thomas Edison's relentless persistence, though, he eventually invented the light bulb and changed the world. Now, I want you to juxtapose Edison against the following statistics. 44% of salespeople make only one prospecting attempt before giving up. 78% make only 2 prospecting attempts before giving up. 92% never make more than 4 prospecting attempts, and 94 of those attempts are lame, poorly written emails. Now, if we get deeper into the weeds, the data tells us that it takes many prospecting touches to compel prospects to engage. For example, it takes around 4 touches to engage a hot inbound lead, 7 touches to engage an inactive customer or a previously closed lost deal, 9 touches to engage a warm inbound lead, 11 touches to engage a prospect in the buying window with no familiarity with you or your brand, 13 touches to engage a prospect with some familiarity with you or your brand, but not in a buying window, and more than 20 touches to engage a cold prospect who is not familiar with you or your brand and not in a buying window. On average, across all these different prospect types, it takes around 8 touches to get meaningful engagement. And yet, 92% of salespeople give up after no more than 4 attempts. It's no wonder that pipelines are bone dry, and last year, according to recent data, 91% of sales teams failed to achieve quota. When I tell stories of prospecting persistence from the stage during keynotes and training sessions, for instance, the sales rep who contacted me 71 times before finally convincing me to buy from him, people in the audience visually squirm. And when I tell the true story of the time that I left a voicemail for a prospect for 52 days in a row before he finally called me back, and this led to a $1.2 million deal and punched my ticket to President's Club, there is almost always an audible gasp of disbelief that comes from the audience. You see, this type of raw persistence carries negative connotations. And people will come up to me and say things like, I could never do that. Or I'd be pissed if anyone called me that many times. Or if someone did that to me, I'd block them. Sometimes people even attack me. They'll say, anyone who would call that many times is an awful person. Or I don't care what you were selling or how badly I needed it. I would never buy from you. That's horrible. It's stalking. Now, I want to be clear that I'm not suggesting that salespeople should engage in gratuitous stalking. That makes no sense, and it will not earn you meaningful engagement. But professional, intentional, systematic, multi-touch prospecting, that is not stalking. Almost every sales professional worth their salt understands the power of persistence with prospecting, but most struggle to be persistent prospectors. Because for most salespeople, the level of persistence required to grab the attention of modern buyers makes them feel like they're being pushy, crossing the line, bothering or annoying people. And it is this wave of emotional hangups in the form of projecting that causes most salespeople to give up too soon. Projecting in a psychological context is the act of attributing your own emotions, feelings, assumptions, experiences, or biases onto your prospect. It causes you to decide for your prospect what they are feeling through the lens of your own emotions. Just think about the rep who called me while I was on the golf course. If, in his mind's eye, he pictured me angry at him because I hung up, he might feel that a fourth or a fifth touch was being too pushy or annoying me, even though those feelings couldn't be further from the truth. I might have found what he was selling interesting, but we'll never know now. Or you might be feeling anxious about interrupting people with a phone call. Then you project that anxiety onto your prospect, assuming that it makes them feel uncomfortable too, and so you don't make the phone call. But your prospect may not feel that way at all, especially if they're in a buying window and are receptive to talking with you. Projecting is a common behavior for salespeople, but it can cost you dearly across the entire sales process, and it will hold you back from being persistent. Breaking through the challenge of projecting when prospecting and truly embracing persistence isn't easy. You know as well as anyone else that detaching from emotional hangups is always easier said than done. But emotional detachment is exactly what has to be done in order to free yourself up from what's holding you back. When it comes to the grind of prospecting, where rejection and non-responsiveness are common, emotional detachment is a crucial meta skill. Now, detachment doesn't mean being cold or indifferent. It means not allowing your own personal emotions to cause you to decide what your prospect feels. And when you learn to detach, you are less likely to take rejection personally, you'll bounce back more quickly, and you'll find the persistence required to win. Before I wrap up, look, I'm loving the comments y'all are dropping about the Sales Gravy podcast. On Spotify, Parquito ATL writes, Jeb is really speaking the truth here. We spend so much time avoiding rejection, but the fact is, the more willing you are to be rejected and keep moving forward, the more likely you are to make the sale. I need to have this podcast tattooed on my arm so I never forget it. And Joe Granfowski says, awesome stuff. On LinkedIn, Daniel Ryman writes, it's a terrific podcast that makes you want to come back for more. And Margie dropped this killer 5-star review on Apple. She says, Jeb has been essential to my success. Prospecting, being disciplined with your time, and motivating me to make one last call has consistently put me in the President's Club. Thank you, Jeb, for the books, the Money Mondays, and for answering text. Sales is a profession where we all need ongoing training and inspiration. I get mine here, and I'm in my 10th year in group benefits insurance sales. Thank you, Margie. And thank you to everyone who is leaving 5-star rankings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. With your help, we are officially the #1 ranked sales podcast in the world, and my team and I are truly grateful. Look, if you know someone who needs to hear this message today, please tap share on your podcast app and send it to them. And please take 3 seconds to leave us a 5-star review or rating on your favorite podcast app. Thomas Edison once said that our greatest weakness lies in giving up. And the most certain way to succeed is to always try just one more time. So this week, when you're tired, when you're worn out, And when you feel like you can't take any more rejection, will yourself to make one more call. I'll see you next time on the Sales Gravy Podcast.
Survival of the fittest, you can sink or swim. I've been broke, I ain't never going back again. I need some C-notes, some cheddar, and a stack of ends. I need a bowl of dough, I don't need no Facebook friends. I need a pack of them snaps, a handful of Fetty Wops, and rubber band on my greenbacks. Look, dawg, don't be playing with my paper. I need every red cent, that's why I brought my little scraper.